Alright, welcome back to our Building a Website from Start to Finish series. In this part of the series, we're going to start cutting up our design here and getting it ready for the web. And the first thing we're going to do, which is probably the easiest of all this, is we're going to hide the website layer, or the entire group here, so we can just see the background, which, if you remember, is just a very, very subtle gradient, and it's almost hard to tell in this view here. But what we're going to do is come up to a marquee tool here and get the single column marquee tool. And we're just going to click really anywhere on the screen. We can go anywhere we want. It's just going to select a 1 pixel line down the middle, or down the canvas, and we're going to copy this and put it into a new document. And we're just going to go ahead and do copy, Control C, and we're going to create a new document, Control N. And because this is in the clipboard, it's going to assume that we want to make the document the same size as this, and that is correct. And we'll go ahead and say OK. And let's go ahead and paste, Control V. You're barely going to even see it in here, so we can zoom in and you can see that it's in there. Now let's really quick, let's come down to the bottom, and let's get our eyedropper tool, which is the I key, and click here. So let's get that color of that background selected, the very bottom of it, because what we're going to do is set this so that it's fixed at the top of the page, and we'll just have the background be this gray here at the end, and it'll be seamless since we picked this end color here. So let's go ahead and save this for the web, and this is again my favorite shortcut on the in Photoshop, and that is the Control-Shift-Alt-S. And if you can't do that, you can also come up here to File and Save for Web and Devices. So let's go ahead and do that. And it brings up this dialog box, which I'm not going to get into too much. It really just focus on the things that we need to do. We're going to make several different types of graphics, so you'll get a little bit of an idea how this works. For this, we want it to be a JPEG. Quality can be 100%. We could probably drop it down, but it's so little that it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and say save, and we're going to want to save this into our images folder. And as I've mentioned previously, I'm sure you can come up with your own naming convention. What I like to do is state the type of graphic or where it goes type of thing, like a BG for background and then underscore body. So I know that this is the background body, and I'll do this throughout the site. For like the navigation, it would be BG underscore nav or something like that, and that way I can easily find background images by just looking for that BG or sorting by alphabetical and such. So let's go ahead and save, and we'll just keep this open for a minute. Let's go back to our main document here. We'll go ahead and select our marquee tool and click somewhere off here to get that selection out. Let's turn our website group back on. The first thing we'll tackle with this is probably the next easiest part, which would be this header background here. So let's go ahead and expand our website group here and open up the header. Let's go ahead and hide the digital craft text and hide the main navigation text. And then let's go ahead and hide the overall background here. And then what we're going to do is select our marquee tool again, and let's make sure we click on our background, our header background here. We're just going to select an area here, and I'll make it match up with our guides, and we'll probably use this as a reference for other graphics. And we're going to go ahead and copy merged, and that's going to copy this image here, and it'll keep the background transparent and all that. So that is Control-Shift-C. And like we did with the background, let's make a new document, Control N, and we'll say OK. And we'll go ahead and paste it, Control V. And we'll hide the background. And since we hide the background, you'll see that we still have our transparency, and we still have our nice little subtle drop shadow. And because we can use a PNG rather than a GIF or a GIF, we can get that subtle drop shadow and the opacity all saved within that file. This is something we couldn't do back in the day with GIFs, however you want to say it. So let's go ahead and we're going to save this as well. So Control Shift Alt S, or File Save for Web. And this time, instead of a JPEG, we're going to choose PNG 24. And we want to make sure our transparency is checked, otherwise we will get a white background, and that's not what we want. We want our gradient to show through in the back. So let's go ahead and save. And like we did with the other image, the last image, we're going to do BG for background _ header. And again, you can come up with your own naming convention, but this one works for me. We'll save that. Let's go back to our template here, and now let's come down and we're going to tackle our buckets here. And let's go ahead and we'll collapse this header group, and we'll open up our buckets. Let's open up bucket 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove some of the items from this bucket, or make them hidden for a second. So let's go in the header here and hide the basic plan text. And then let's hide the price. And then let's hide the button as well. So now we just have our bucket itself. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on that bucket. And we're going to get our marquee tool, which is the M key. And let's just select around this here. We don't have to be too accurate. We just want to make sure that we get our drop shadow in there. So give yourself some space, but be careful over on the right side because we don't want to move into that other drop shadow. And this should be good. So we'll do this Control Shift C again for copy merged, and we'll create a new document. And we'll say OK. We'll go ahead and paste it, Control V, and we'll hide our background layer. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut this up even more, and first things first, we're going to kind of center it. So I'm going to hold down Control T, and I'm just going to use the left arrow key and hit it once. And from eyeballing it, that looks pretty close, but it looks like we still have a little bit of room over here. So let's go ahead and we'll use the crop tool, and we'll crop it right about there, and maybe one more pixel. There we go. Now we should be good. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to get our marquee tool again, and we're going to select this header up here. And if we zoom in a little bit, which you can do with the Alt key and using your scroll wheel on your mouse, we want to make sure we get this white line here, but nothing else. So what I'm going to do, since I've got 1 pixel extra there, I'm going to hold down Alt, where you can see the minus sign on the marquee cursor, and I'm going to highlight the area I want to cut out of the selection, and there we go. So now we're good. Now let's go ahead and we're going to copy this, Control Shift C, and we're going to make another document, Control N, and we're going to go ahead and paste this here, turn off our background, and let's come back to this image here, and what we're going to do is simply select the inverse of this, which you can do up here and select, or you can do Control Shift I, And that's just going to select the opposite of what we had. And what we can do is go ahead and come up to image and choose crop. And now we just have the bottom of our bucket. So since we know that we don't want to make this bucket expandable, we'll leave it like this. If we wanted to make it expandable though, if we wanted to make, and what I mean by that is if we wanted to be able to add as much content to the bucket and have it actually grow vertically, then we might cut out just this bottom part here with the curved edges and save that separately. But we know already that we want all the buckets to stay consistent. So let's go ahead and we're going to save this. Control Shift Alt S. It's going to be a PNG, so we can have our transparency, and we'll go ahead and say save. And we'll call this BG bucket body. And then come back over here to the header portion of it and do the same. Control Shift Alt S. And we're going to go to save. And we'll do BG bucket header. And there you go. Now we have those saved. And really quick before I run out of time on this part of the video, let's go ahead and get our button out of there too. And what's great about this is that we don't need to do this with all these here. We can create this bucket over and over and over with the same images, and we're just going to put in a different text at the top. So let's go ahead and we'll hide the bucket background, and we'll go ahead and turn our button back on. Let's get our marquee tool, select somewhere off in the distance here so we can get rid of our selection, and let's get our zoom tool actually and zoom in and get our marquee tool again, and let's just go ahead and select an area here and try and make it equal on both sides. If you're just eyeballing it, I think that's about right. And I'm going to go ahead and hold down Alt and get rid of some of the bottom here. And that should be good. So Control Shift C, Control Shift C, Control N for new. And if you want to name your document in that screen, that's probably a good idea, and I should have done it before rather than having all these untitles up here. But anyway, go ahead and paste that, hide your background, and let's go ahead and save this. And it's going to be a PNG because we want our transparency and our opacity, and we'll just call this button bucket. Now if we ended up having more than one button in our buckets, then we would name it a little differently, but for now that'll work. When we come back, we'll continue cutting up these images.